Now the recording started. Welcome, comrades and friends, to the fifth joint Juche, fifth joint Songun-Juche question and answer and study session called by the Korean Friendship Association of the UK and the British Group for the Study of the Juche Idea. And we'll be answering some questions today and also be reading from some texts. So I'm going to call first upon Comrade Alan Bollen, the Organisation Secretary of KFA UK, Head of West of England KFA UK, and also the editor of our online PDF journal, People's Korea Today. So over to you, Alan.
All right, so we have a question raised for Comrade Ben. The question is, occasionally we will see the press release that a particular organization or citizens group will have made donation to body of the state. It may be gift or buses to transport service or statute for the municipality, etc. Can you please explain the role of donation within the DPRK? Since the workers collectively control the surplus, why don't they use their democratic power to request state planning body to execute their wishes? Why shouldn't cost of those means of production, which are often in common, be borne by the people in common rather than a group of individuals that donate? The answer for this question is the role of donations, both in the DPRK and in the past in all the socialist countries, was and is the same. The donations enrich the economy and also has an ideological dimension. In socialist planet economy, donation don't fulfill any specific task assigned to them by the plan. It is because it is impossible to plan the size or number of future donations. In the process of economic planning in the socialist system, in the DPRK also, only measurable and actually existing indicators are taken into account, and forecasts are also made according to them. Any economic forecast cannot be based on unpredictable donations. Donations are not element of socialist planning because of their unpredictability, and also because of the lack of factors on which any plan could be based. The so-called surplus in the form of donation is surplus that is unplanned and cannot be planned. Planning is not the disposal of existing economic resources, including coming from donations. Planning is the process of adapting existing resources to the needs of the most rational way possible and ensuring the best possible satisfaction of economic needs, and not the disposition of unpredictable donations. Occasional and spontaneous nature of donations prevents it from being included in any economic plan at the local or national level. It is impossible to predict people's behavior or whether they will take the initiative to donate additional production, which are the result of spontaneous behavior. Donation initiative is on the planet. The behavior is spontaneous. It is inspired by the ideological factor, by the campaign of Communist Party or trade unions, and is expression of the high ideological maturity of the socialist society, as well as their collectivism or patriotic attitude in above standard work and effort. The second part of the question was, since the workers collectively control the surplus, why don't they use the democratic power to request state planning body to execute their wishes? In the answer for that, I don't really understand what the workers' wishes are and what is the link between production cost and their donation. In fact, workers in the DPRK realize their aspiration and wishes through the forms of direct management through various bodies of workers, self-government in the socialist system. For example, in the Polish People's Republic system, in old socialist system was collapsed in 1989, local government and collective management of the workplace at the level of so-called conference workers or self-government workers, councils, which is translating from Polish language and could be a little bit different, as it's not possible to exactly the form of the body of workers' council translate. The entire staff on the workplace decide through the democratic voting on the division of the profit earned after paying so-called turnover tax to the state. So the profit which generate from the companies in the socialist system been paid, and the workers deciding for the social purposes how will be divided. So through the so-called social fund of the staff, all the wishes were implemented at the local level. It is such a housing management, housing construction could be help for pension people, old people, many ways. Could be buy a bus also through help to local schools, or also help for the poorest people locally. But sometimes it is not strictly donation. It is joint workers management of funds earned by socialist enterprise after transferring part of the generated profit to the central budget. And by this way, everyone is involved in the fully democratic decision making. As for issue, why shouldn't cost of those mass production which are often common be borne by the people in common rather than group of individuals that donate? The answer for the question is the cost of means of production constituting collective property
Hello, Alan. You appear to be muted.
sorry, from where? I don't know. Okay, we try to back. As for issue with Comrade Ben raised, why shouldn't cost of those means of production, which are of common, be borne by the people in common rather than group of individuals that donate? The answer for that question is the cost of means of production constituting collective property are borne by a given enterprise operating according to local plan, factory production plan coupled with regional plans, and through them with the central national plan. Donations don't affect any production cost and are the result of overplanned production. Therefore, production costs closely related to the subject of the donation are incurred as a result of excessive production and organizational effort from generated surpluses. From initiative separate from the planned one and belong to the economic activity in a given enterprise and this group which took the initiative to donate and is not to general economic activity in the entire specialized economy of the whole country. The second question is The DPRK is often misrepresented as being ultra-nationalist, Korean supremacist even. The historical record demonstrates the DPRK's commitment to internationalism, but it also emphasized pride and love for the nation. Can you please summarize the DPRK's view on nationalism as exposed in Kim Jong-il's work on nationalism in plain and simple terms? Answer for this question is, it should begin with the fact that many confuse nationalism with patriotism in regard to the social relations of the DPRK. And what is in fact patriotism and progressive nationalism, uniting all social classes in the DPRK and having internationalism meaning, is called egoistic ultranationalism. Is called that by others who don't understand the progressive and the right, correct way of nationalism which DPRK is create. Nationalism is similar in its use to propaganda. Nationalism and propaganda, what is in common, it is themselves could be neutral, and only the purposes for which they are used and impact of the objective factors determine whether they are good or they're bad. Nationalism could be not only homogeneous, and whether it's positive or negative. This is because it can take the form of chauvinistic egocentrism aimed at exposing the domination of one nation over others, which is often used to use nationalist trends to implement the political goals of the bourgeois classes hostile to the working classes. We often see this in many movements and political parties with extreme right-wing and nationalist ideology. Nationalism can be a trend that, if allowed to develop as a chauvinistic ultranationalism, can be dangerous and irrational in nature. An example of nationalism that was used in this way were the nationalist tendencies of the nations of Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina from the former Yugoslavia, which, fueled by American imperialism, led to the conflict and disintegration of this state. Nationalism skillfully used to direct social trends, which, if directed in the spirit of patriotism and internationalist values, can bring many benefits to the nation, but only if they are skillfully combined with patriotism and internationalism and don't expose the superiority of one nation over others, and thus discrimination and exploitation in the name of nationalism as a goal of other nationalities. This is the correct use progressive nature of nationalism. Pride for love and nation does not exclude involvement in the internationalism. Even more, it is the right direction of love and pride for one's nation, excluding the dangerous chauvinistic trend of putting one's own nation above all others in the sense of hostility towards others and discrimination towards others, which takes place in every bourgeois nationalism. The belief that our nation is the best is not wrong only when it does no harm, respect the differences of others, and does not interfere in the affairs of other nations for its own benefits. Only then is a healthy nationalism that is full of patriotism and has internationalist expression that is the proper right nationalism. Emphasizing pride and love for the nation as DPRK celebrate ourselves is the expressing of true patriotism. If you like me to summarize the DPRK view of nationalism as being exposed in the Kim Jong-il's work on nationalism in possible plain and simple terms, as Comrade Ben requested, I think it could be number one, emphasizing the heterogeneity of nationalism and its division into so-called bourgeois nationalism, reactionary, and progressive and genuine nationalism. Number two, whether nationalism is progressive is determined by its character, which must include the compatibility of class and national factors. Number three, nationalism was used in various historical periods as a useful factor in the fight for the class interests of the bourgeois in opposition to the class interests of working class. Quotation. As capitalism developed and the bourgeois became the reactionary ruling class after victorious bourgeois revolution, nationalism was used as a means of defending the interests of the bourgeois class. Not satisfied with exploitation and oppression of the other members of the nation, the bourgeois resorted to the invasion, plunder and war against the other countries and nations, justifying their act as the defense of the interest of their nation. Finish quotation. Number three, the relationship between nationalism and communism based on a recognition of nationalism as a trend that is not opposed to communism, but which is based on love for the nation and country, on the recognition of independence and national independence that does not threaten other nations in any way of chauvinistic domination, but of patriotic emanation, is consistent with communist ideas. So, genuine love for the homeland and nation is the factor that unites both communism and nationalism. Without the concept of the nation and its independent development and respect for national tradition, which is expressed in nationalism that maintains supra-class character, internationalism is also impossible. Finally, nationalism should always be considered from Marxist-Leninist position, that is, from a class position. Nationalist sentiments should always be analyzed from the point of view of what purposes they serve and whether they bring benefits to the working class and have patriotic dimensions in their love for their own nation, as well as internationalist dimension, uniting the fight for the liberation of the world proletariat, and not only putting the nation above others in its importance and disclaiming rights and privileges only for themselves for their own benefits, but while recognizing national distinctiveness and respecting the otherness and diversity of nations and their independence, it is expressed in internationalist cooperation with other nations. It's worth to add one thing more to this, is in the work of Kim Jong-il, the Juche idea as an idea that inherited and developed of the progressive ideologies of Manking is very relative text for nationalism. Quotation, why should be misunderstood by others that we are advocating nationalism when we create the wonderful Juche idea of universal importance that has inherited and developed the progressive ideologies of mankind. So that is explanation that the nationalism which is created in DPRK has internationalist genuine character, not chauvinistic, not that way how is the by mistake understanding by others. I hope I have answered these two issues comprehensively on the topic of correctly understanding nationalism. I also would like to present one of my articles to understanding nationalism correctly from KFI UK joint meeting, what was 12th of December 2020, which I'm going to send in the PDF file in this article just now on the chat of this meeting. I hope I explain everything correctly. If not, please ask. I will try to more explain. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Alan, for the answers you've given. I think they've been quite useful, particularly the answer to the first question. So I think that was quite useful. And welcome to Comrade Artemis from Germany. Okay, well, I'm going to give my answers, and then if Sean wants to answer the questions, he can do so. Hope everyone can hear me. So we come to the first question that was raised by Comrade Ben Kavanagh, and the question was: occasionally we see a press release that a particular organisation or citizens group will have made a donation to a body of the state. It may be a gift of buses to a transport service or a statue for a municipality, etc. Can you please explain the role of donations within the DPRK, since workers collectively control the surplus? Why don't they use their democratic power to request state planning body to execute their wishes? Why shouldn't the costs of these means of production, which are owned in common, be borne by the state in common, rather than a group of individuals that donate? So, I mean, my answer is follows, and I think some of it's been said by Alan, but I'll just add my remarks. There is a long history of donations in people's career. This goes back to the period after liberation in the 1940s. The great leader, President Kim Il-sung, had led the struggle to carry out land reform, which wiped out feudalism and landlordism and made the peasants masters of the land. After the first harvest under the new People's Democratic System, a patriotic peasant named Kim Ji-won donated 30 straw bags of rice to the country. The donation of Kim Ji-won was used to help found the first ever People's University in the DPRK, Kim Il-sung University. And there are many other examples of where workers in the DPRK either donated labour or donated money or goods. And I can also remember being at the Changwon kindergarten in the DPRK, where Comrade Sean Pickford has also been, where there's actually a train, scale model of a train that kids can ride in, that was donated by the workers of the Kim Jong-tae electric locomotive complex. In the DPRK, donations play a useful role in helping to strengthen the country. Moreover, they are an expression of patriotism and people's lofty devotion to the socialist country. Donations are made through mass movements to donate. The movement for donations is also an important ideological means to mobilize people to do good things for the country. For example, the Children's Union donate tanks. And this is a positive way to encourage patriotism among school children. It would not make sense to include donations as part of the National Economic Plan under socialist planning, because they wouldn't be donations, but would become actually compulsory, because in the DPRK, the National Economic Plan is actually law. It's actually a legal document which people should obey. Moreover, including donations in the National Economic Plan would surely dampen down people's patriotic enthusiasm. To me, the DPRK is a very collectivist society, so there's absolutely no contradiction between the whole of society and an organisation such as the Socialist Women's Union or the Children's Union, or the Youth League, or trade unions, or groups of individuals. There's no contradiction. And donations are a great way of encouraging people to go the extra mile for socialism. Coming on to the second question raised by Comrade Ben, which is as follows: the DPRK is often misrepresented as being ultra-nationalist, Korean supremacist even. The historical record demonstrates the DPRK's commitment to internationalism, but also emphasizes pride and love for the nation. Please, can you summarize the DPRK's view on nationalism as espoused in Kim Jong-il's On Nationalism in plain and simple terms? Well, my answer is hired hack academics such as B.R. Mears and also some fake left elements falsely tried to paint the DPRK as, quote unquote, an ethno-nationalist state. Of course, the DPRK rejects strongly erroneous concepts of fake internationalism, in fact, supra-nationalism, the idea of trying to merge nations, and also cosmopolitanism, which are advocated by Trotskyites, but instead stresses socialist patriotism and independence and recognizes that nationalism can be progressive. It is worth pointing out that the DPRK law on nationality of October 9th, 1963 states, and I quote, "Foreigners can acquire DPRK nationality by their request, regardless of nationality and race." Article 6. The right of DPRK citizens to marry foreigners is protected by Article 7 of the nationality law, which stipulates that DPRK citizenship is retained if someone is married to a non-DPRK citizen. It is a myth that mixed marriages are forbidden in the DPRK, and in fact, some Japanese women married to DPRK citizens settled in the DPRK. Some of them have been even admitted to the Workers' Party of Korea. The famous US defector, the late Dresnok, lived in the DPRK from the 1960s and was married to a DPRK citizens, and his sons actually served in the Korean People's Army. Comrade Kim Jong-il himself pointed out in 1989 that, and I quote, "We do not assert Koreans' biological constitution is more developed than those of other races. Defining the superiority of a nation according to biological or ethnic characteristics is the practice of reactionary bourgeois ethnology," end of quotation. The work of Comrade Kim Jong-il, titled On Correctly Understanding Nationalism, is useful as it clarifies the DPRK stance on nationalism. It was published in 2002. However, I do note that some of it actually refers to inter-Korean joint declarations and great national unity. This has now been superseded by the recent decisions of the 9th plenum of the 8th Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea. So we will await further clarification from DPRK comrades, particularly DPRK social scientists, on how this impacts the DPRK stance on nationalism. However, I will give a summary of the work. Firstly, Comrade Kim Jong-il explains what nationalism is and gives a historical overview of nationalism. He says that, and I quote, "Nationalism came into being as an ideology for defending the interests of a nation in the course of the latter's formation and development. Although nations differ from one another in the period of their formation, every nation is a social community which has been formed and consolidated historically on the basis of common kinship, descent, language, residential area, and culture, and is composed of various classes and strata. There is no person in any country, in any society, which exists outside his or her nation, separate from it. Every person belongs to a class or stratum, and at the same time, a nation, endowing a person with both national and class character. Class character and national character and the demands of classes and nations are inseparable from each other. As a matter of fact, the classes and strata of a nation entertain different demands and interests according to their different social and economic foundations. However, all the members of a nation have the same stake in championing the independence and character of the nation, attaining national prosperity without distinction of the interests of their classes and stratas. This is because the destiny of a nation is precisely the destiny of its individual members. In other words, the latter is dependent on the former. None will be happy with the sovereignty and honour of his or her nation being trampled upon and the national character disregarded. It is the common ideological feeling, the psychology of members of a nation to love their nation, cherish its characteristics, and yearn for its prosperity. Nationalism reflects this feeling and psychology. In other words, nationalism is an ideology that advocates love for the nation and defence of its interests. Since people carve out their destiny while living within the nation state as a unit, genuine nationalism constitutes patriotism. The progressive nature of nationalism lies in the fact that it is a patriotic ideology that which advocates the defence of national interests. End of quotation. Secondly, in the work, Comrade Kim Jong-il makes a distinction between bourgeois nationalism and genuine nationalism. Comrade Kim Jong-il denounces bourgeois nationalism and identifies it as basically toxic, pointing out that bourgeois nationalism reveals itself as national egotism, national exclusivism, and big power chauvinism in the relationship between countries and nations. It is reactionary in that it creates antagonism and disagreement between countries and nations and checks the development of friendly relations between the various peoples of the world. And I've ended quotation. I think this the above quotation shows that the DPRK is not an FNO nationalist state. Third, Comrade Kim Jong-il states it's wrong to counterpose communism with nationalism like Trotskyites do. He says that communism does not only advocate the interests of the working class, it also advocates the interests of the nation. Hence, it is an ideology of loving the country and the people. Nationalism is also an ideology of loving the country and the people as it defends the interests of the country and people. Love of the country and the people is an ideological emotion common to communism and nationalism. Herein lies the ideological basis on which they can ally with one another. Therefore, there is no reason to pit one against the other and reject nationalism. End of quotation. Fourthly, he states that nationalism does not conflict with internationalism, saying mutual help, support and alliance between countries and nations, this is internationalism. End of quote. Fifth, Comrade Kim Jong-il elucidates how the theories of Comrade Kim Il-sung correctly explain the relationship between nationalism and internationalism. And sixth, and finally, Comrade Kim Jong-il says that the imposition of globalization on the world by the imperialists is actually shows that they're the ones who oppose the independent development of nations. He stresses the need to oppose globalization, saying, and I quote, "We resolutely oppose and reject the maneuvers of the imperialists for globalization and integration, and staunchly fight to preserve the excellent characteristics of our nation and safeguard the its independence. And that concludes my summary. I'm just going to put a few links down for people to check out and look at. 1 minute. And also the short book I wrote on the subject as well. Right, okay, and I should now come on to these two more questions. One, two that Alan did not refer to, and the next one was also raised by Ben Kavanagh, and he said in the early USSR they had something of a piece rate system that paid a percentage of basic wage up to a basic quota, which paid a higher rate for work above the quota. This was combined with the ideological Stakhanovite movement, which encouraged overperformance to lift up the nation. Does the DPRK have such a piece rate quota system, or are wages fixed? If wages are fixed, how are high performers rewarded extraordinarily for their high contribution? Well, to answer the question, the DPRK is based on the socialist principle of people being paid according to the quantity and quality of work done. As society has not yet reached the higher stage of full communism, in which everybody will contribute according to their ability and receive according to their needs, the DPRK is also based on the principle, he who shall not work shall not eat. In the DPRK, both fixed rates of pay and piecework pay, in the DPRK, there are both fixed rates of pay and piecework pay in some industries. In agriculture, farmers receive both cash and grain according to the number of work points they've received, and that is determined by the Agricultural Working People's Union in the DPRK. Article 36 of the Socialist Labour Law of the DPRK states, and I quote, "The state shall compensate workers for their physical and mental strength they spend in the labour process, and shall determine a living expenses rating system from the principle of guaranteeing their standard of life. State organs, enterprises, and social and cooperative organisations shall correctly pay the living expenses of labourers, clerks, and cooperative members, grounded upon their living expenses rating system instituted by the state and the principle of paying living expenses." Article 39 of the Socialist Labour Law of the DPRK also states, "The basic form of living expenses applied to labourers, clerks, and cooperative members are the fixed fee system and the wages system, and the supplementary form of living expenses is the bonus system and the reward system. State organs, enterprises, and social and cooperative organisations must correctly impose the living expenses payment form to further raise the production will of the workers, so that their innovation and initiative can be actively promoted." To explain further, workers in the DPRK receive basic pay, or sometimes called living pay, which covers their living costs, as well as generous social benefits for housing, which is free, and food, which is supplied at low cost. In fact, virtually free. It's actually virtually free. And those who work hard and exceed targets receive bonuses and premiums. Moreover, those who exceed targets or put forward new ideas for innovation can be awarded titles and certificates like Labour Innovator and Labour Hero, which earn them preferential treatment in society. I think it is necessary to point out here that the DPRK combines material incentives with political and ideological and moral incentives, basically giving priority to political, moral and ideological incentives while not ignoring the material incentives. And income differentials are actually low in people's career. When myself and Sean Pickford visited the Yuan footwear when we visited the Yuan footwear factory in 2018 and also 2019, we were told the wage differential was 2 to 1. Now compare this to 10 to 1 in Cuba and 30 to 1 in the former USSR, not to mention the capitalist countries, which have massive disparities in wealth and income. Wage differentials in the DPRK simply reflect different levels of skill and experience, and there's opportunities for workers to gain new skills and new qualifications through distance learning. And visiting the Kim Jong-suk textile mill, we saw a sci-tech learning space where workers could actually study online or through distance learning university courses, so they could get higher qualifications and progress to a higher rate of pay. And the last question is, can a person living in Europe become an international student of the DPRK? And is it possible for someone for the Europe to move to the DPRK? And the short answer to this is it is possible to study in the DPRK as a foreign student. Kim Il-sung University accepts a small number of international students. Hard-working members of the Korean Friendship Association can receive a recommendation from KFA to study in the DPRK. As for living in the DPRK, it may be possible to work as a foreign languages teacher in the DPRK. There is also the right of asylum to those who are persecuted, and obviously those who fight for socialism, independence and peace. So, I mean, that concludes my answers. Thank you for listening. Right. Well, I've tried to sort of answer everything as fully as I could. Alan, do you want to add anything to what I said?
No, I think all been said in a very detailed way. If someone would like to explain more, please do. I think in my answers and your answers, all the topics been already explained. Someone is raising question now. I wanted to ask if, apart from studies in the DPRK, there are language courses organized for foreigners. Dr. Diamond, can you answer for that, please?
Yeah, in fact, perhaps my answer didn't make it clear, but actually, most of the course, I think, most, if not all of the courses in the DPRK for foreigners are actually language courses, and you can study foreign languages at Kim Il-sung University, and indeed 2 KFA members from Spain did study in the DPRK at Kim Il-sung University, and they studied the Korean language. Hope that answers your question. just wait to see what. Great. Okay. Are there any more questions? We can take some more questions if people want. Okay. Yeah, Alan, you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe to add something interesting facts about the question of donations, or actually not really donations, because I remember when I was young and I was living in Polish People's Republic on my age, like 8-10 years old. I'm still remember the coal mines when my dad was working. There was some workers been still been treated as a hero. They had some orders, also gifts from the coal mine, as a, like in DPRK now is the labor hero. Actually, there was a big system, and I have in my books big system of graduation of the people, of the workers who exceeding the production plan or have an initiative. There was long history, long process of development of this process of over planet production, people who want to take initiative. Some of them still living. I met personally one when I was living in Poland. Is very old man who was working as a coal miner in the coal mine, who first initiated the overproduction plan and been graduated of the title of hero of labor hero of the coal mine. So what I want to say, the tradition of socialist economy, of the system of overhead production by workers has very long story, very long inheritance, very long traditions. In DPRK also, like Dr. Dermot raised the question. Regarding to donation, that's what I would like to explain. There is different topic, because donation cannot be planned. You cannot plan behavior of people. It can be stimulate on the impact of ideological work of the party, trade unions, organization in a socialist state, and it can be taken. The donation can be taken individually, also by group of the enterprises, socialist enterprises, but cannot be planned. And all of the value, the profit which is from that, is going to be as an extra, not planned inside the plan. Because to make the plan, you have to know the factors which are before, and you cannot be prognose and forecast to what people can take initiative. Initiative can be today, can be tomorrow, can be other week. Depends to people how they are, how they are want to take it, and when would like to take it. So that's for me. Thank you. If someone is more interesting about it, there is plenty of books also about the subject of except the production socialist system. Some of them also in an English language. We can read this very good tradition in communist movement, not only the DPRK, everywhere on the one socialist system. Every socialist state will be proud of this, because worker is not only working in socialist system. Worker is not only working for profit, for profit to capitalists, the owner, but is working for his own, for all the state budget, for all the people, and also has additional benefits from social funds, which is part of the enterprise in the management of the funds, of the profit, of the value which is generated by socialist enterprise. So everyone in socialist system who is working in enterprise is enriched by this what is generated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, I mean that was very very interesting. I mean, I hope I hope that we've answered the question fully for Ben. Oh yes. Oh. in the comment here. Just as an interesting fact, I will say at Kim Il-sung University, there is a Polish language course, and there are also Koreans who graduated from Poland and are now in the DPRK. And also after and during the Korean War, there were many orphans from the DPRK living in Poland, and they often taught Polish at the university in Pyongyang. Yeah, indeed, that's a good point that the comrade from the People's Korea Initiative of Poland has raised, because a number of the East European socialist countries like Poland, like Bulgaria, and I think Romania and the GDR all took in war orphans from the DPRK, and you know, some Korean children grew up in these countries. And I once met the person who'd been the director of a Korean orphan school in the GDR, which was quite interesting. Okay, does anyone else have anything to say? Sean, if your mic, as you say, your microphone's not working, do you want to put any comments in the chat to reply to anything we've said? Well, okay. Well, why we perhaps wait for Sean to put something in the chat. One thing I'd just sort of throw open for a quick discussion is recently, very regrettably and disappointingly, Cuba opened diplomatic relations with South Korea. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? I'd just be interested in hearing.
Okay, the microphone is working, so I can only speak for a brief time. So is that correct? You just said about Cuba and South Korea.
Yeah, I mean, it was confirmed, but it was a Cuban Foreign Ministry statement.
Right. I'll have to look. I'll have to look on the grandma side and things like that.
Well, I can actually perhaps put the link.
Yes, it's I'm kind of shocked by that, because I thought it was Cuba's consistent policy to not recognize the Seoul regime.
Yes.
Even if they had to make compromises in other areas, you know.
Yes, that's true. I'm just trying to find it from Prince from a Cuban source, because there's a lot
Prince
from...
La Retina.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, here we are. Yeah, that's from Prince Latina.
Okay. Oh my God. I suspect that the ROK regime may be giving an economic loan to Cuba, but this like many years ago with the Soviet Union isn't really South Korean money. It's really from the IMF and US and different sources.
Yes, I imagine. Well, South Korea is the most heavily indebted country in the world. People can look it up.
Because back in '91, did they? It wasn't South Korean money, but did the South Koreans loan that money off somebody else, and they gave it to the Soviets?
Yes, that's what happened. Yeah, I'll just put a link about the South Korean debt. All right. Sorry to hear about your cough, Alan. Anyway, Sean, do you want to comment quickly on the
No,
questions?
not really, because all of those points were covered quite comprehensively by the two leaders of the UK KFA.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Sean. Okay. I mean, do we have any more?
I didn't have any notes. The only thing I could say is, although they don't like it being referred as that, there is a form of workers' control with the Tay-Tay-Han system.
Yes, I mean that's correct. That is very correct.
Which is a party committee, the management and the trade unions of the enterprise.
Right. Yes, that's very true. And it was certainly very good that time we visited the footwear factory in the DPRK in 2018, and I went back there with a certain two characters in 2019, and also to the Kim Jong-suk textile mill as well, which was quite interesting. In fact, I'll just put up my article that I wrote. Yeah, that's the article I wrote. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I basically
just to start you, that is actually a very good title. I'll give you. I'll really compliment you on that.
Oh yeah, it's a good article. I mean, I actually not wanting to boast. I actually sent it to Voice of Korea, and they actually ran just a very short bit of it on Voice of Korea, which was good. But so anyway, well, yeah. I mean, just to sort of respond. I mean, I agree with what you said about Cuba, Sean, and also the comrade from the People's Career Initiative put. I was shocked when I found out about this situation. In my opinion, Cuba is making a huge mistake, especially at an important time for the DPRK, when provocations from the Republic of Korea are becoming more and more aggressive. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's and I think extremely.
I don't think myself if the Castros were still in the leadership, I don't think they would have taken that decision. I think really the man you've got at the moment is doesn't have that revolutionary kudos really.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't want to sort of get too involved with the discussion with about Cuba. I was just sort of flagging it up just to get people's opinions, because you know, I don't want to sort of discuss too much like the internal Cuban situation. I mean, I've heard very negative things about Cuba from some people, including our old friend Mr. Ryan, who doesn't have a.
Yeah, because I was in. I've only made one visit to Cuba, and it seemed to be a mishmash of influences, really.
Yeah. So, you know, some people are very negative about it. It was extremely negative about it and say it's revisionist. And on the other hand, there's people who praise it to the skies. And some people who
are those people still stuck in the 1960s?
I wouldn't know, but they praise it to the skies and actually say they prefer it to the DPRK. You know, these represent extremes of opinion. Anyway, unless there is a further question from one of the participants, I will move on to reading different extracts from the two like question and answers booklets, and we will aim to wrap up, or I should say for people outside England, to conclude, to finish the meeting by around 4:30 or 4:35. So particularly as Alan has got a very bad cold.
Yeah, so I may have to go because I'm going to go takeaway.
I'm just back. Okay, it's fine. I'm back.
Right. Okay. I'm glad you're fine, Alan. Okay. Well, I'll just read. You know, I'll just read the two from the two booklets, and if anyone has a quick question on that, they can ask. But say we aiming to finish by about 4:13. Just so people, it's this booklet's Juche Idea, answers to 100 questions. So I'm just going to read a few of the questions and answers from that, and then move on to another book. So here goes. And we have, what is the fundamental question of philosophy raised by the Juche Idea? And the answer is, the Juche Idea puts forward man's position and role in the world as the fundamental question of philosophy. As the origin of the world was explained materialistically by Marxism, the Juche Idea newly raises the relationship between the world and man, the position and role of man in the world, as the fundamental question of philosophy, and gives a scientific answer to it. Question 7. What is the basic principle of the Juche Idea? Answer. The basic principle of the Juche Idea is that man is the master of everything and decides everything. All the systems and contents of the Juche Idea are based on the philosophical principle that man is the master of everything and decides everything. Question 8. What does it mean that man is the master of everything? Answer. That man is the master of everything is the principle that refers to the position man takes in the world. It means that he is the master of both the world and his destiny. That man is the master of the world means that he is the dominator and transformer of the world, who makes it serve him according to his will and demand, and not being subject to the world that surrounds him. That man is the master of his destiny means that he is a being who is responsible for his destiny and shapes it in the way he wants. Number 9, what does it mean that man decides everything? Answer, that man decides everything is the principle that explains the role man plays in transforming the world. It means that he plays a decisive role in transforming the world and carving out his destiny. That man plays a decisive role in transforming the world is a key factor among those that affect the transformation and development of the world. That man is very instrumental in shaping his destiny means that his role is a decisive factor among those that influence his destiny. Question 10. What is the relationship between the principles that man is the master of everything and he decides everything? Answer. The principle that man is the master of everything and decides everything are closely interrelated as they define the position of master man takes in the world and the decisive role that he plays in transforming and developing the world. Man's position in the world as its master is guaranteed by his role in transforming and developing the world, and his decisive role in transforming the world is decided by his position as master of the world. As man is the most developed and powerful being, he takes the master's position in the world. He plays a decisive role in transforming and developing the world. As he is a decisive factor in transforming and developing the world, he steadily enhances his position as master of the world and expands his control of the world. Question 11. What is the social being clarified by the Juche idea? Answer. In the philosophical consideration of man, the Juche idea starts from the fact that man is a social being. That man is a social being means that he's a being who forms a social group and lives and works in a social relationship. In the Juche idea, the term social being is an original meaning that defines the intrinsic features of man. Question 12. What are the intrinsic features of man defined by the Juche idea? Answer. The Juche idea newly defined the intrinsic features of man from the point of view that man is a social being. The intrinsic features defined by the Juche idea are independence, creativity, and consciousness. These are the qualities peculiar to man that no other material beings have. Question 13. What is independence? Answer. Independence is an attribute of a social being who wants to live and develop as the master of the world and his destiny. With independence, man opposes all sorts of restrictions and subjugations in nature and society and makes everything serve him. Man does not resign himself to the restrictions of nature and social subjugation, but opposes them. He wants to live free from them and works to the end. He harnesses nature to create conditions needed for his life and changes natural things and phenomena into means useful for his livelihood. He also transforms society to make it serve the life of the community better. 14. Why is independence the life and soul for man? Answer. Independence is the life and soul for man. When independence is referred to as man's life and soul, it means that social and political integrity and physical life is what keeps man alive as a biological organism, whereas social and political integrity is what keeps him alive as a social being. For man, a social being, the social and political integrity is more precious than the physical life. If he is deserted by society and loses political independence, he is like a dead man as a social being, even though he is alive physically. Question 15. What is creativity? Answer. Creativity is an attribute of a social being who transforms the world and shapes his destiny purposely and consciously. By dint of creativity, man transforms nature and society to make a more useful and make them more beneficial to him by changing the old into the new. Man breeds new varieties of animals and plants, invents new machines and instruments, develops new ideas and knowledge, and establishes a new social system by transforming things and phenomena in the world that surrounds him on the basis of understanding them. New things and happenings come into being by the activities of man, who changes the old into the new. He makes not only quite new things, but what is needed for his life by transforming nature and society on the level that he has already reached. In other words, he changes the useless and harmful things in nature and society into the useful and beneficial ones, and makes what is less useful and beneficial more useful and beneficial. Creativity is not the special quality of some individual persons, but a mode of activity peculiar to man, a social being. So we will stop reading from that book. Now, coming on to the other book, I'll just show people it's they are, and that is questions and answers on the Songun-Juche Idea. I should just read a few more of the questions, and we got to question 30. Question 30: how is it that the army holds the leading position in the revolutionary struggle and construction work? The army holds the leading position in the revolution and construction work because it is the revolutionary force that stands in the forefront of defense of the revolution. The main force of the revolution as the hardcore and principal body of the main agency of the revolution naturally stands in defense of the chief front, or the lifeline of the revolution, which is decisive of the destiny of the revolution and construction. Question 31. What is the lifeline of the revolutionary struggle and construction work? Answer. The anti-imperialist military front is the lifeline of the revolutionary struggle and construction work to realize the independence of the popular masses. The anti-imperialist military front is the main front of the revolution that has direct bearing on the realization of the popular masses' independence. End of quotation. End of answer. Question 32. How is it that the anti-imperialist military front is the lifeline of the revolution? And the answer is the anti-imperialist military front is the lifeline of the revolution because it is the main front to bring the revolution to a victorious conclusion by crushing all manner of counter-revolutionary violence of the imperialists, establish the people's power and safeguard the already archived gains of the revolution, and also because the anti-imperialist military front is the key link decisive of the issue of the battle on the other fronts of the revolution construction. A setback on the anti-imperialist military front involved in a fierce confrontation of power with imperialism will not only negate the victory on the other fronts of the revolution and construction, but also obliterate the revolutionary cause itself. Next question, question 33. What is the meaning of the leading position of the army in the revolutionary struggle and construction work? The leading position of the army, standing in defense of the anti-imperialist military front, is the most responsible position related to the destiny of the country and the people and to the fate of socialism and revolution. The army, standing face to face with the imperialist aggressors, defends with arms the destiny of the party and the revolution and the country and the people. The leading position of the army, standing in defense of the anti-imperialist military front, is also a key position, giving firm military guarantee for the position held by the working class and other broad sections of the people in the revolution and construction. Without the army of the working class, peasants and other broad sections of the popular masses will be unable to hold their position in the revolution and construction. Next question, question 34. What is the decisive role of the army in the revolutionary struggle and construction work? Answer. In the early days of the revolution, the army plays a decisive role by force of arms in routing the enemy of the revolution, building a new society for the people to become masters of the state and society defending it. For its revolutionary spirit and fighting stamina, the army also plays the decisive role in propelling socialist construction in the political, economic and ideological, cultural and other fields. End of answer. Next question, question 35. Where does the revolutionary spirit of the army find expression? Answer. Taking it as the cardinal mission to guard the party, the leader and independent cause of the popular masses, the Korean People's Army, KPA, struggles in the face of death to defend the party, the leader, implement the policies of the party and accomplish the independent cause of the people. The KPA soldiers love the country more fervently than everyone else, have a strong spirit of defending socialism and make it an inveterate habit to fight for the victory in the revolution at the cause of their youth and life. Question 36. Where does the organisation of the army find expression? Answer. Organisation is a specific characteristic indispensable to the main force of the revolution. The KPA soldiers form a harmonious whole, firmly rallied behind the Supreme Commander. They act as one under the orders and instructions of the Supreme Commander. All of their activities and life are regularized as required by military discipline and regulations. The relations between officers and soldiers in the army are not the relations of order and obey, but the lofty relations of revolutionary comrades in arms who share blood and flesh with each other and even unhesitatingly sacrifice themselves for the sake of their comrades in the field of decisive battle. The army is higher than any other groups of society. In the spirit of collectivism, voluntary discipline prevails in it, and all of its ranks form a single group of comrades. Question 37. Where does the fighting efficiency of the army find expression? The answer: the army continues to boost its fighting efficiency through combat drills and political training, while keeping on the alert and prepared to act at all times, full of fight in tackling everything. The KPA maps out a bold plan, acts on the offensive stubbornly, and gets through it by swiftly disposing of one task after another. In socialist construction too, the KPA braves through any trials and ordeals, makes things from scratch, and effects great innovations and long leaps forward through a do or die struggle. Question 39. What is the main agency of the revolution, clarified by the Songun idea? Answer: by inheriting and further developing the principle of the Juche idea on the main agency of the revolution, on the basis of the unique explanation that the army is the main force of the revolution. The Songun idea newly elucidates that the main agency of the revolution is the integral whole of the leader, the party, and the people. End of answer. Question 39. What does it mean that the main agency of the revolution is the integral whole of the leader, the party, and the people? It means that the main agency of the revolution is the integral whole of the popular masses rallied firmly around the party and the leader, organisationally and ideologically and morally, with the army at its hard core. And question 14, this will be the last one for today. What is the position of the popular masses in the main agency of the revolution? Of the main agency of the revolution, the popular masses are directly in charge of the revolution. The masses are the masters of the revolution construction and the decisive force that transforms nature and revolutionizes society. The revolutionary struggle and construction work are undertakings to realize the independence of popular masses, which fall on their own shoulders. The revolutionary movement is impossible from the popular masses, and so the masses are the principal constituents of the main agency of the revolution. And I will conclude there, and I think we'll also stop the recording here. Hope people have found today's session useful. So just end